we did a quick walk around and then jump in the cockpit. Again, I had never been formally trained by these are the experts on the Walter engine. So I tried to take every moment that I could to check that all my procedures were good. I had what I remembered from the long nose. I had the checklist that I had developed for the long nose. I had the checklist that the owner had developed. And now I'm in the presence of these folks at Turbine Power Technologies who are all, well, they certainly have more time running the engines than I do. So I'm showing 24 volts.
That's good. Now, if it drops, when you go to start, you want to watch that as well. If it drops below 20 to about 18, and
so I'm seeing
lower
20
than
here on the checklist, so that's reasonable.
Yeah, if it drops below 20, you know you need to recharge your batteries.
So that's DJ on the left wing of the airplane. He is the high time guy that works for Quentin, and he's walking, you know, I'm trying to ask intentionally stupid questions to try to trigger him to say things that might give me more insight into what's going on with the airplane. So I apologize if it appears really simple, the questions I'm asking, but it ended up being really useful. And that's going to be the same aboard that we talked about, which is just going to be master off.
Yeah, you can just pull the condition lever off, turn the fuel pumps. That's not going to be that's not an engine issue, so it's not as urgent.
So, sorry, the reason I keep bringing that up is when I played this game before with this airplane, this is a momentary switch. You put the switch in the up position and it was like you could release the momentary and the start sequence would not stop.
Okay, so this has the TSLM timed start sequence.
Okay.
So that should usually run about 20 seconds on its own.
And so that was just concerning to me, you know, as a guy responsible for not burning the engine up. You're like, well, how do I stop it when I need to stop it?
Well, you're right.
So it's
well,
fuel
that's
cut
why
off
you're
and
gonna,
master.
yeah, maintain on that EHT. Keep your hand on the condition lever. That way, if anything goes wrong, you can just abort the fuel all by itself, and you'll be fine.
All right. So the start process for the Walter starts with condition lever to the on position when you're effectively just turning the fuel cock on, and then you start the start sequence. This has an automatic start feature which runs a timer and an automatic ramp up of fuel with the ignition sequence, and then it has a manual bypass where there's a momentary switch on the panel. So basically you let the sequence start, and then you watch the engine temperature, and in the event that it looks like it's going to exceed a limit, you have a momentary switch in the cockpit that you can cut off fuel and let the engine cool down. So here you can see me doing that. Once you get it started, it's a twin spool motor. So the primary spool, the internal spool, the hot spool is running, but the propeller is not. So it's the propeller is spinning, but just only barely. The blades on the propeller are feathered, and it's just sitting there sort of freewheeling at a real low RPM. So then the last step is, once you get the generator on, is you pull the prop or push the prop from the feather stop to the fine pitch stop. The blades go fine. There's less drag, which allows the engine to accelerate, and then that allows that secondary spool to come up to speed.
Okay, you put your prop forward.
You can see once the propeller starts spinning, that's when the wind associated with all that idle thrust, which like I said is an issue on this airplane, starts blowing by. You can see DJ sort of being blown back. You can hear the wind noise around the camera and all that goes with it. So the check for the air in the system is, like I said, it's a fuel pump off and then check RPM. So you can see doing that. And then I put the engine in beta, in full beta, and pull it all the way back into full reverse to see how the beta is functioning. And it wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking like we were going to have an easy day on the beta front.
Are you in beta?
After the beta check and the fuel pressure check, we shut the engine down.
Fuel pump and generator.
And then Quentin showed up.
This is what I need to talk to him about, because your beta light shouldn't be on unless you're in beta. So
that's the start timer is what that's talking about, right?
That I'm not sure.
And again, I'm just trying to ask him every dumb question I can think of in the hopes that it may trigger him to say something else that ends up being useful in terms of me knowing more about the airplane for future, whatever was going to come down the road.
So
and obviously, if I'm not taking off with a chip detect light on.
No, those lights also shouldn't be on. That means we need to check our chip detectors or the connectors themselves.
It looks to me like it's a lamp test situation, like that switch
I
is.
think it is.
It's like stuck on, because
Yeah.
it's very weird that everything is.
Yeah, because you see the low fuel's got its own and that one's not on. Try cycle the power off and back on and see.
Oh, here's an important thing. This is a mistake that I made, and again shows just trying to come back up to speed with the airplane. There is a hydraulic accumulator. If the hydraulic accumulator is charged up, it doesn't matter whether the pump is on or off, and therefore there's hydraulic power available. And what happens is if you turn the master switch off, it automatically takes the inner gear doors and signals them to the open position with power. So they go and they go down, right? And then if you turn the master back on, and they go close.
It's not on. Try cycle the power off and back on and see.
They stick down a lot and forward enough that you can see Jose out in the front of the airplane is very close to those doors, which I'm not proud of the fact that I wasn't aware enough of the fact that when I was going to turn that master switch, the doors were going to move, and Jose was standing in such a place that he could have been at risk. What I should have done is said power coming on, clear the gear doors or something to give him a heads up. I was still getting used to operating the airplane again.
I would say the start went well. What I
Yeah,
do
the
wrong?
start was very nice. No, I mean, if anything, you were kind of pushing the EHT
More.
too much, but
Good.
that's just being safe. So I mean, you didn't hurt it at all, really.
I'd rather that than the alternative.
Yeah.
Well, if you go too much, you can also hurt it. You'll get it out of the momentum on acceleration,
Oh.
and then it's going to want to hang at like 45%. So that's why you got to do it enough initially just to kind of keep the temp down, but then you kind of got to let it ramp up a little bit.
Okay. It's good news, or good to understand that.
So you can hear us talking about it there, but just to be totally clear about what's going on, there's a series of eyebrow lights across the top of the panel. It has, and I'm just going off of memory, which of course is dangerous, but it has 2 chip lights, it has a hydraulic pump light, it has a fuel pump light, a start light. The most important information closest to your line of sight and the assumption that your head's up flying. And for the entire time that we were doing the engine run, all the lights were on, which I wouldn't have expected. So coming out of that engine run, the question was, what's going on with the system and how can we fix it? The assumption was that it was stuck in the test mode. So we've all flown airplanes, so I don't need to tell you, but I'll tell you anyway. Anytime you have an indicator light, if the light bulb fails, you would not have any indication whether the system had failed. So there's typically a test lamp light or switch, and you hit the switch and it lights all the light bulbs so that you can be confident the light bulbs function before you start on your flight. Based on what we were seeing, the system was stuck in that test mode. So maybe the switch is bad, maybe the circuit's bad, I don't know, but it gave me something to look at.
Okay. Hey, Jose, you want to push real quick?
And then the lovely service of Turbine Power, they pushed me back in the hangar.
Thanks, guys. I feel like somebody special now. That's right. Good living.